Wow. Well, I've lost track of how many times I've been to Innovate. I'm so excited to be here again. Thanks, everyone, for joining us here today. So happy to be with you, if not in person, virtually. And we're going to talk with you today about, in the theme of Innovate, all about connections and connecting. We're going to talk about connecting campus with Ohio State's brand new general education curriculum. So let us, without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Melissa Beers. Please feel free to call me Missy. I am new to my role in undergraduate education, working in the general education. I'll be telling you more about what I do shortly. And my colleagues here, Teresa and Alan. Teresa, you want to give us an introduction?
Sure. My name is Teresa Johnson. I am currently the high impact curriculum expert for our Office of Academic Achievement or Academic Enrichment. And we are the housing for honors and scholars and undergraduate research and service learning and the fellowship office. And have I mentioned everything? I think that may be all of it. So that's my current role. I've spent the last 13 or 14 years in our teaching and learning center. So that's really my strong background is in educational development and curriculum development.
And I'm Alan Kalish, and likewise, I was in the teaching center for a very long time, and now I'm in undergraduate education with Missy and working on the Gen Ed, both on the bookends and the assessment of the whole program.
So I'm the lucky one because I get to work with these two teaching and learning experts, and I could not be happier to be part of this team working on this great project. But we also just want to take a moment to meet you and find out who you are and what your roles are. Because could you take just a moment and drop in the chat for us, where you're from, what you do, just so that we can get a sense of who's joining us here today. So are you from Ohio State? Are you from another campus? Are you from a partnering high school? Where are you from at Ohio State? Just something to let us know a little bit about who you are today. Hey, Ben. Awesome. Instructional designers. Oh, we've got a colleague from Mount Union, online course coordinator, aerospace engineering. Hey, Andrew. Shanna's here. Hello. Jeremy. Hi. Hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Dave. Hey, Terry. Great, lots of instructional designers, lots of OSU folks and students, video producers, online distance ed folks. We've got a great diverse team here. Lots of instructional technology. Awesome, thank you. That just helps us know a little bit more about who you are and what might interest you or what you might want to know. So thanks for taking a moment to share that with us. Hey, Shed. Good to see you here as well. Wow, what a great group we have today. Thanks everyone for being here. So let's take just a moment to check your knowledge of the GE, right? So where are we? How well do you know our current and our upcoming GE? So I'm going to take just a moment and ask you some questions. I'm going to ask you just to drop your answer in the chat again. So beginning this autumn, 2022, what will Ohio State's general education requirements be called? Will it be called the Buckeye Legacy, the Citizenship Curriculum, the new GE, Buckeye Core, or the GEC? So feel free to drop your answer, your letter, in the chat. C's and D's and E's. I'm seeing a lot of C's, probably C, but they like D. D's pretty good too. They all have their appeal, right? But the correct answer is going to be the new GE or the GE.
Yeah, we were real creative about that one.
The least, I think it gets it across. The former GE that we've been operating under will be called the Legacy GE or the GEL, GE Legacy, and the new curriculum that we have moving forward is going to be called the new GE, the GEN. Byron says all of the above. It may well be Byron. We'll have to wait and see. And there may be some other names people may have, but we're going to be calling it the GE, the new GE.
Those other names we can't actually say in this kind of thing.
They're going to love it. It's going to be adoring, loving names. They're going to love it so much. When you meet the new GE, you're going to absolutely fall in love. So the new GE has some new components and structures. And so what I'd like to do is ask you, of this list, there are a number of options here. You can answer more than one or pick more than one. Which of the following do you currently recognize as being major components of our new GE? We've got a lot of G's. Brian says it's always
all of the above.
Is it? Is it now?
This is what Brian says.
A and D. A and D. I see a lot of A's and D's. That's great. Feel free. Any others? Any other guesses? Mark and Byron, A and D. Anybody else? A and D is correct. These are two of the big components. I threw that all of the above in there just to throw you off. So the two components that are really kind of the big basic structures in the GE are the two on this list, I should say, are going to be the Bookend seminars, which is what I'm directing, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about, and thematic pathways, which Alan's going to talk a little bit about. And we also have foundations. So some of you may have been thrown off thinking about those foundations, but none of these is actually the title of one of the foundations. So it was a little bit of a trick question. Sorry, I hope you'll forgive me for that one. Now, here's another question that has been coming up because many of you, my OSU colleagues, have probably been familiar with advanced writing, second level writing, and 2367. And so where's that going to be? Will the new GE have an advanced writing composition requirement? So is it no? You know, now with the emergence of TikTok and, Instagram and pictorial and video communication seems to be merging. So did we make the choice to remove written communication from the GE? Or is it, yes, that they're just redesigned and they're in the new Writing and Information Literacy Foundation? Or is it that we just took it out altogether to make it easier for students to get their degrees? Or is it that advanced composition is included within major coursework as an embedded literacy? So I'm seeing some D's. I'm seeing lots of D's, a couple B's and a C. Anybody else? No one for A? Nobody's thinking that we are going to just have a advanced TikTok classes? I threw that one in there to throw you off too. Sorry. I didn't trick anybody, Teresa and Alan. I didn't trick anybody. Although some of those 2367 courses were redesigned to fall into writing information literacy. Advanced composition is now, a lot of it is being moved into the major. And Alan's going to talk about that in the form of embedded literacies, which is a new feature of our GE curriculum as well. You all did very well. I'm very impressed. Well done. I would give you all a GE stamp of approval. The GE is the heart of campus. It's really the heart of our institution. And I'm so happy to be working with Alan, who has such a strong history of supporting the GE and teaching at Ohio State. So Alan, I'm going to pass the ball to you to tell us all a little bit more about the current GE structure.
Thanks, Missy. So you can go to the next slide. The old GE was a straight distribution model. That is, students made choices from a very long menu of categories. And it was like they were picking classes like puzzle pieces and then trying to fit them together on their own. And we weren't really showing them what the picture was supposed to look like before they started picking the puzzle pieces. And so sometimes they fit, sometimes they didn't. Each of the pieces was great, but whether or not it was a curriculum was an open question. And of course, over the last several decades, more and more of our students have come to us with parts of this already completed through advanced placement or testing or the College Credit Plus. And so, again, they pick up the puzzle pieces and then they come and try and figure out how the puzzle works without having a complete sense of how things fit in an academic career. So, next slide. Beginning in December of 2016, we realized we needed to do something new. And that old system had been adopted in 1988. So it was older than almost all of our students and many of our faculty. And so we're trying to move into the 21st century. Many faculty members, staff members, and students worked together over these past many years to try and to create a new GE that supports and encourages connections across the student's learning journey so that it's not just a random selection of puzzle pieces, but it actually makes a nice picture. Next slide. So this is, and I hope that those of you who work at Ohio State have seen this image before. Beginning next August, all students who matriculate, with some very small exceptions, will shift to the new GE, and they will fit into this kind of a structure. The foundations are similar to the old distribution set. There are many fewer enrollments there, and we did add a specific race, ethnic, and gender diversity class rather than having that linked into some other class. And these are also aligned with what the state is moving towards in terms of our transfer module, which is now called the Ohio Transfer 36, and these will follow along. So students will probably bring some or all of these courses with them as they come again, but we're going to try and fit them into the larger puzzle. And for the first time in living memory, all Ohio State students will have some common academic experiences. So the two vertical red bars, the launch and reflection seminars, which we're calling the Bookends, every student will take both of those 1-hour courses, and every student will take the Citizenship for a Diverse and Just World. So there'll be common academic experiences. Now, there are many different classes that can fit into the citizenship theme, but they'll all take something in that theme. And then they will choose one of the other themes for themselves. Next slide. So the themes are one of the major new elements in the GE. And these classes ask students to take a more advanced and critical look at a thorny problem from multiple disciplinary, methodological, and/or societal perspectives. Next slide. So we've got Citizenship for a Just and Diverse World, lived environments, sustainability, and health and well-being are our current theme areas. I will let you know that we have 4 more that have been proposed and vetted, and within the next few weeks, you can look forward to an announcement of those. And at some point in the future, there will be review of those and also the possibility for more, depending on what the student demand is on those things. But all of the students, as I said, will be taking the Citizenship for the Just and Diverse World theme and choosing one of the others. Next slide. The other element that I'm going to talk about is embedded literacies. So data analysis, advanced writing, and technological literacy are skill sets that every student needs to have. They're universally important skills, but the way they are shaped and connect to different majors are different. And so in order to allow for that kind of difference, and also, frankly, to make more room in the gen ed, these are now going to be part of each major program. And they will form a connection between general and specific learning for most of our students. And the vast majority of programs at the university have already proposed how they're going to teach and assess these skills. Many of them are doing it by adding either they were already doing it in some of the classes they already had, or they're adding these learning outcomes to existing classes, or they are adopting existing classes into the major to teach these. There are a few that are working on designing brand new classes, and some of those haven't fully been through the process yet, but by the midsummer, all of these we expect will be in place. The other big piece, and the one that Missy's going to share with you, are the bookends, the launch seminar and the reflection seminar. So, Missy. You're muted.
I got so excited, I forgot to unmute. Thank you, Alan. Every time, right? Every time. So I'm very excited to be in this new role as the director of the Bookends. As many of you know, I spent the last 22 years in psychology, and I actually directed Intro Psych, which is one of our university's largest gen ed courses, for 16 years. So I'm kind of used to doing things at scale, and boy, this is a big scale. So every single student at our university is going to take the launch seminar within the first 3 semesters that they're at Ohio State, and prior to graduation, they'll be taking the reflection seminar. So I'm so excited because this is, again, a curricular experience that our students will share. It's not unique to any one college or major. We're going to have students in the launch seminar, with other students from all over the university and with instructors from all over the university. So I think it really captures the essence of what we want from the gen ed in terms of an integrated, broad experience. And we actually have a brand new department of general education in which these courses will be offered. So that's a pretty historic landmark for Ohio State, if I must say. I'm very excited to be part of it. So these bookends, the launch seminar at the beginning, the reflection seminar at the end, are there to provide some context for students. The launch introduces students to the idea of the GE, helps them get their heads around it, and helps them to think about what their plan should be, what their pathway should be. And this was a major issue with our former gen ed. Although the courses in the GE were good, and there were many things about the GE that were good, students were often left with this disconnected experience. As Alan mentioned, they had a bunch of puzzle pieces, and they didn't really see how they all fit together because they hadn't taken time at the outset, or the system hadn't afforded them the opportunity to think about how all those pieces of their experience would connect. We're being very intentional in the new GE to have that opportunity for students, and then another opportunity at the end for reflection, to have them look back and think about their experiences and integrate them along the way. They're both 1 credit hour. They're both satisfactory, unsatisfactory, and they have been designed over a period of 2 years now by experts from all across the university, an interdisciplinary panel of experts in teaching to explicitly support students as they enter the GE. It does not replace launch for those of you familiar with, it does not replace survey for those of you familiar with survey that's taught within academic units. That is more process oriented. It's connecting students to specific resources and helping them understand procedures, whereas launch is really giving them that big picture view of the institution and their role within it. A couple specific goals of launch that I'm particularly excited about. First, helping students just to understand the structure and function of the GE, to really talk with them about why it's important to have a GE, and to help them understand the pieces and why they're there. Coming from psychology, it's really it's critical for a comprehension to understand structure. Otherwise, we could just be doling information out to students and imagine that they get all of this great knowledge, almost like ornaments, that they don't know where to put them or how to organize them. But when we give students structure, imagine giving them the structure of a tree, and they can see the limbs and they can see how the tree is shaped. Then they'll understand where those ornaments or where those pieces of knowledge fit in their overall path, in their overall picture. So giving students that better metacognitive awareness of what it is they're going to be learning and why they're going to be learning it is a key piece of the new launch seminar. Second, we want to introduce students to these critical skills and habits of mind that are going to help them to be successful. The launch is going to really absorb the full diversity of the university. So imagine the full diversity of students that come to the university. They're all going to have this opportunity to pass through launch. And so it's our opportunity to embrace them, to help them understand how to be successful. When I think about our first generation students and our international students, I think this is a great place for them to socialize with some of our academic norms, to become familiar with policies that are important for them to understand what academic integrity is, how to use technology, information literacy. These are some really critical things that are going to help students get off to a strong start in their academic career, no matter what path they ultimately will follow. And then, of course, being a psychologist, this one is near and dear to my heart, self-awareness and identity development, helping students to think about and reflect on, who am I now? Who am I? What do I bring with me into the space at the university? And what are my goals? And so part of this launch seminar is helping students to think about and start to create a plan, an integrated plan for their learning while they're at the university. What are some pathways that help support their goals? And what are some experiences that they will want to seek out and have to support their interests and their goals for themselves? So this, again, is going to help students get off to a strong start and to make the most of all the opportunities available to them within the context of the GE. Now, this is launch, of course, we want to get students off to a strong start, but there's also this reflection seminar at the end. Now, hopefully that won't be the only time that students will stop and reflect. Teresa's going to speak a bit more about that, but we want to guarantee that all students have this time to stop and reflect before they graduate. Now, all of us are asked to engage in reflection. We're asked to do that as part of our work, either annually or semi-annually in our performance reviews or in our work. We want to stop and take stock of our progress and how we're doing. We need a little space sometimes just to think about, am I really meeting my goals in the best way that I can? What path or future do I want for myself? And am I on track for it? The reflection helps us do that. We need a little space. We need a little cognitive room, a little emotional room sometime to do that. So that's what we'll be doing in the reflection seminar, which is going to be offered. The first launch seminar will be offered this fall, and reflection will be coming shortly thereafter. But again, metacognition, just taking that time to really think about the skills that they've gained, to reflect on the importance of different modes of thought and what they've learned and gained from their experiences in various classes at the university. Intercultural competence. This is woven throughout our GE. It's proudly positioned, strongly within the foundations. It weaves its way throughout the themes. No student should leave this university without reflecting on what this particular topic means to them. So that is a goal, that we want students to be interculturally competent global citizens, that they can engage with these elements of the human condition. And so taking some time to think about how they've grown and what they've gained will be part of reflection. And then again, we want our students to be healthy and well, not just, vaults of knowledge. We want them to also gain skills that will help them to be healthy and well, to be able to pursue their goals and to contribute to society in the way that moves them to do so. So these are all the pieces of these two bookends that give students and support them in these big picture ways that we just didn't have an opportunity to do before. Individual classes could do this, major programs could do this. We certainly had services that could do this. But these bookends are a systematic shared curricular experience that can support students in these specific goals. Launch is also going to introduce students to a new way of interacting with saving, curating, and narrating their academic experiences called e-portfolios. And this is a high impact practice. So I'm so excited to partner with my colleague, Teresa Johnson, who actually is a specialist in high impact practices. So Teresa, I'm turning the floor to you to talk a little bit more about this.
All right, beautiful. So as Missy just told you, the other big initiative that is coming along with the new GE and Launch and Reflection is Ohio State's introduction of an e-portfolio for every student. So every incoming student this fall will have access to an e-portfolio. Now, this is something that has been happening for honors and scholar students for about the last 7 years, but this is going to be a new thing for not most students, because honors and scholars are a good large percentage of our student body. But this is a new thing for all of our students to have at the same time. So the question is, what is the purpose of our e-portfolios? Next slide, Missy. Thank you. So why are we adding this to the new GE? As Missy said, this is a high impact practice, something I can't talk. The idea of high impact practices is that they help students synthesize and make meaning from their learning. And the other examples of other high impact practices are things like learning communities, internships, service learning, undergraduate research, global and intercultural learning, which is our new term for either study away or intercultural learning that happens here on our campus. So there are lots of other types of high impact practices, but we actually consider ePortfolio the meta high impact practice. So a meta HIP. And I'm going to tell you a little bit why we call ePortfolios a meta HIP. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about why certain practices are called HIPs. What is that? And then you'll understand a bit more about ePortfolios. Next slide, please. So here are the 8 characteristics of HIPs. And all of the examples that I just gave you, including ePortfolios, all have all of these things going on for them. So things like expecting high expectations from students, having high performance expectations for them, significant investment of time and effort. So these are not things that you just do for 5 minutes out of a particular lecture and then you move on from them. It also, every one of them builds in interactions, significant interactions with faculty and peers about substantive matters. So things that are authentic to the field are in some way an important topic of discussion. One of the most important ones is frequent and timely constructive feedback. So all of these pedagogies include a lot of feedback from peers, from instructors to students. So there's a lot, and that goes together with the interaction. So there's a lot of interaction, a lot of feedback. Structured opportunities to reflect and integrate learning. This is, we're going to talk a lot more about reflection. You already heard Missy talking about that and how that helps to integrate learning. So you're going to learn more about what that means for ePortfolios, but all of these HIP practices all offer those opportunities. Real world applications of learning. So these are ways that we really want students to interact with real world problems, with thorny issues like what Alan talked about with themes earlier. Public demonstration of competence. So these HIPs often ask students to share in some way, either with each other, with their instructors, with an authentic audience of some sort. With ePortfolios, they can be shared at lots of different levels, including with potential employers, that sort of thing. Experiences with diversity, intercultural competence, and empathy. You've been hearing a lot about this with the GE in general, and high impact practices are built around making sure that there's a lot of experiences in these areas. So all of the HIPs that we talk about and that are built in different ways into the new GE have these characteristics, but ePortfolios are special, and that's the thing that I want to make sure that we get to today in talking about this. Okay, next slide, Missy. So an ePortfolio in particular is a space, pardon me, for students to have a chance to make connections in their brain. So connections between what they've learned in the bookends, in launch and in reflection, in the foundations courses, some of which they may have come with, but some that they may take here while they're at Ohio State, and especially the themes, in particular the citizenship theme that everybody is going to be interacting with. As well as other parts of their curriculum, their experience while they're here at Ohio State. So we're thinking about co-curricular spaces as well, things like a learning community that they might be involved in, perhaps scholars, STEP experience for many students, other student organizations, research, service. So there are all of these different learning opportunities that students have. And the idea is that an ePortfolio provides space for them to think about how all of those things connect. So the act of making those connections is what we refer to as reflection or reflective practice. So thinking about what one has learned, how that learning all connects into something cohesive, thinking about that puzzle that we were talking about at the beginning. How do I put all of this into one understanding, one picture for myself? And e-portfolios then are a meta level HIP or a high impact practice, because they promote this synthesis of learning from the different parts of the curriculum. It's an opportunity for students to collect different artifacts, what we're going to be calling assets, from all of those different learning opportunities and put them into one space and then reflect on that. What does all of this mean to me? How can I see my journey of learning? How have I changed as a person? How has my thinking about diversity and inclusion changed? How has my thinking about citizenship changed? Or any of the other types of concepts that they've learned in the themes, or any other part of their learning, maybe their major as well. So this is what e-portfolios do, is provide that space. And so that's why we call them a meta level HIP. Okay, next slide, please. And when we take that level of reflection and we embed that into a process of bringing all of one's different pieces of work, different assets together, and put it together into this concept of an e-portfolio, this is what we call folio thinking. So that this is reflection, but within the context of constructing and curating an e-portfolio. So you're going to hear the term folio thinking a lot as we begin this process of helping our students reflect and build these e-portfolios during their time here with us at Ohio State starting this fall. All right, next slide. And so what that brings us to is a new challenge, a new opportunity. And so what we want to think about is, how can we all work together to help students find those individual puzzle pieces in all of those different spaces that we just talked about? In the co-curricular spaces, if you find yourself as a STEP mentor, how do we find the puzzle pieces that we find there? In other student organizations, in the courses that you're teaching, in the launch and the reflection, there are all of these individual puzzle pieces that we want to help students put together, both within the GE and within their major and in their co-curricular spaces. And that process of making sense of that information, putting it together in a unique way that's going to be different for every student, that is the beautiful aspect of what this meta level HIP, this e-portfolio, can do for students. It can help them really be better prepared to pitch their skills and their abilities to future employers, to graduate school, to the community, to help the community understand what they have learned at Ohio State and why they are better prepared to be a citizen because of their time spent at Ohio State. So our question for you is this something you would consider trying, to jump in with us and to help us build this folio thinking, this reflective practice for your students as part of this big puzzle picture that they're putting together? And can you do this in your classroom? What can you do through both assignments and activities that will, one, provide students with that puzzle piece, and a clear puzzle piece that students know they can take this as an asset to put this in their larger puzzle that they're creating. And then two, help them figure out where that piece fits, help them reflect on where the piece that you've helped them discover in the time that they spend with you into that bigger puzzle. So we'd love for you to take a minute and think about what you can do to help students find that puzzle piece and figure out where it fits. And then when you're ready, put your answers into the chat, and we'll see if we can create some wonderful ideas for how that might look in different contexts for our students.
While you're thinking, I just want to add on to Teresa, because I see a comment from Brian here in the chat. And Brian, a comment like, students saying that the GE classes are sort of a waste of time and they don't, those questions that we have all heard. And these were the questions that motivated a real close look at the GE and a revision to the GE in the first place, was students saying, why do I have to take this class? Now, those of us who teach GE classes, I think we felt pretty strongly that it was good for students to take those classes. I certainly felt very strongly that students could benefit from learning psychology. I know my colleagues who teach other GE classes feel the same, but we didn't always give students that space that we have now to help them understand why they need to take that class and to be intentional about talking with them about it and creating space for them to do that. And this is a challenge, I think, and a bit of a culture change for Ohio State, because it's no longer that we just sell our wares to students and put our content out there and hope students figure it out and figure out what to take from it. I think we can all be more intentional in thinking about how does my class fit into this bigger picture, and what opportunities can I create for students to take something with them, which means our assessments ought to be more than just multiple choice tests. They ought to be more than just displays of knowledge, right? So if we want to give students something to take with them, maybe we need to think, what opportunities do we have for them in our classes to do that?
And Missy, I think another point that I think follows on with what you've been saying, and I'm starting to see some really good ideas coming out here in the chat, so thank you, keep those coming, is that students are going to take their cues from us, from those of us that interact with them, whether we are advisors or instructors, or if we interact with them through campus jobs, however it is that we interact with them, if we talk about the value of this and the benefit of this and what they are learning, whether they're working for us for a few hours every week, the work that they do for us in our offices can help them with this, can help them put this together. And so I think that having a good attitude about it and being excited about what this affords them and how we can all help them put these pictures together and what that is going to do for them, what benefit that has for our students, being clear about that is really going to be the difference. I think that if we're excited about it, then they will take that cue and run with it.
We also hope that much of the conversation in the launch seminar is going to be about what is it that we're trying to do with the Gen Ed, and particularly with the themes. One element of those launch seminars are a collection of videos from faculty and staff talking about their academic identity, how they came to be who they are, and what the thorny questions that they're trying to answer in the themes, and how what they study connects to that, but is not sufficient to answer that. And I think that's really the piece that students don't get, is they think that if you learn absolutely everything in the major and nothing else, that's a complete education. And the whole point of this Gen Ed is explicitly that it's not, and that we're going to talk about that, and we're going to help students to see that the really important questions need more than one way to think about them in order to be dealt with.
I really liked Elizabeth's point a few chats ago about having a common vocabulary, having a shared vocabulary with students about all of this. And that's one of the things that I think is going to be really exciting too, is that as we develop a shared vocabulary about reflective practice, about folio thinking, about how all of the GE integrates with everything else that they're learning in their major and at the different levels of the GE, I think that's going to be a really valuable thing for students to be able to share that vocabulary with us. So I agree, Elizabeth.
And Carol raises the point that there is a deliberate attempt here to help students to see these connections, right? So we're all being a little more deliberate about the GE, a little more intentional. And we're sort of sharing the structure with you, but each of these categories, foundations and themes, even the bookends, have brand new updated goals and objectives for students that update the GE, that really enhance and enrich the curriculum and the focus of these courses. And so I really urge everyone to take some time and look through those goals and objectives. Those were several years in the making. Alan was really the leader of that effort. I participated in that, as did many of our really talented colleagues in curriculum and assessment here at Ohio State. And I have to say, I think that's my favorite element of the new GE, having come through this process and watched it evolve. These beautiful, rich objectives, goals and objectives for our students. And so I think to really understand the GE, for those of you who are motivated to do so, please take a look at those objectives and think about your discipline or your corner of Ohio State and how those disciplines, what do those objectives mean to you in the space where you are? Because they really do, I think, help shape what we should be doing and how we should be interacting with the student experience.
Alan, are you speaking to Shed's comment about global community versus citizenship?
Yeah, and that's really where that came from. And then we tried to build it to be much more broad than being someone who can register to vote in this country, because that clearly is not universal for all of our students, or even necessarily something that we're going to focus on. But it's more about being a member of the global community, a responsible member of a global community that supports diversity and justice.
So Shanna asks whether the portfolio provides an opportunity for students to reflect or connect the course, even though it's not a GE course. And yes, technically students could take anything, any experience, and add it to their portfolio. And so I think for us really to help students connect with their experience, right? We can all think about what is a product that they can take from my class, any class, right? To show what they've learned. And that can be something that they add to their portfolio. And we will be explicitly supporting them using the portfolio in the context of the bookends. And so any class can add something for students in the new GE, right? So this will be starting with autumn 22 and then moving forward. So the autumn 22 students will be the first ones who have access to this tool. But as it moves forward, I think our hope is that the terrain of Ohio State will gradually change as the new GE takes root, as these new opportunities present themselves. And I think as we all just kind of settle into the shape of the new GE and how we all fit within it, all of us will have an opportunity to help students create a product that could be part of their portfolio.
And as that rolls out, so 4 years from now, all of our undergraduate students will have access to and have been shown how to use that, but they own the content of their own portfolio. We will be asking them to do certain things with it and share those for grades, primarily in the bookends. We will be inviting the instructors of a lot of the gen ed classes to explicitly invite students to post things, to save them so that they can reflect on them later. But the students will get to curate what they share with whomever they share it with beyond the graded elements of it. And so it's a tool. And as I mentioned earlier on when we were talking about the iPads, we're trying to design this to be as agnostic as possible as to the tool, either the platform or the program, so that it's about doing folio thinking and curating your history and sharing it. So whatever tool you have, whether it's this one or one that you have after you graduate or whatever, and we are hoping that students will have access to this tool after they graduate, at least for some significant time. But anyway, it's about the way of thinking, not about using it, the how-to for that specific tool.
So there are some other questions in the chat. Jessica asks if students will be provided with examples or models of what any portfolio might look like. I don't know that right now. I know that we have some examples of honors and scholars portfolios that we might be able to make available for students. Missy, do you know if there will be examples shared in launch with students?
Examples of e-portfolios?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's going to be just evolving. I think it's also to keep in mind that an e-portfolio is a space for students to reflect. So it's different from Carmen, right? So it's not a place where they interact with, instructors for feedback. It's not like social media, right? It's not like LinkedIn. It's not even a personal website. It's a space, a dedicated space that students have access to that persists across their college career, where they can interact with the courses that they take, and they can save pieces, and so that they have that space to curate and narrate the experiences that they have in the classroom, in their co-curriculars, professional experiences, work experiences, right? So it's new for us here. It's hard to get your head around that. But I think more than the product, it's the process of students kind of collecting, thinking about what is it that students can take from this experience, in whatever form that may be. That's, I think, our goal, is to help start thinking that way about folio thinking. What can we get? What can we take? What can students take from our classes? Does that make sense? Would you say, Teresa, that that's accurate?
Yes. And I think that if students want to take pieces and parts and use it for sharing with other people, and they want it to be something beautiful, then there is support for that. And one can do that, but it's going to be bigger than that, and messier, and what they need it to be. Brian is asking who will evaluate the e-portfolios, or whether they are just repositories. Alan, do you want? Well, I can tell you that they will be evaluated in part during reflection. So the pieces and parts that they put together in that course will provide an opportunity for the portfolio to be looked at more holistically. But there are also opportunities for other instructors to have students put together particular aspects of an e-portfolio, or particular things that could then be evaluated in the context of that particular course as well. I don't know, Alan or Missy, if you want to add anything to that.
I think that says it. I mean, there are certain folio assignments and reflections that will be graded as part of the reflection seminar. There are a couple that will be graded as part of the launch. There will be the invitation that an instructor in some other class can develop, assign, and evaluate other elements of reflection that get carried forward in the portfolio. But we're not going to do a post hoc review of the entire portfolio outside of a class. That's just for, when you have a first year starting class of 7,500 students, that's just too big. There's no way to do that. So we're trying to do this in a way that promotes the thinking and assesses bits and pieces.
Right. And assessing it isn't really the point in that sense, right? So, evaluating the product isn't necessarily the point of having an e-portfolio. We want to help shape students' way of interacting with their experience, more so than they want them to produce a particular product. Would you say that's accurate, Teresa?
Yes. And the interesting thing is that the research that is coming out shows that e-portfolios, it's not that they are so valuable as a package to take and show to a possible employer, because employers are not necessarily going to want to see that. That has not, I think we originally thought that maybe that was going to happen, but that has not really panned out that way. But what the research has shown is that students that go through the process of reflecting and building and curating an e-portfolio are better positioned to be able to integrate their learning, demonstrate that learning to potential employers and in their first jobs, and to really be able to demonstrate this breadth of knowledge that they have and how their skills might apply to a possible career position. So it really is more about the effect that it has on students than the product itself.
Right. So I always think about a teaching portfolio because folks like Alan and Teresa taught me how to make a teaching portfolio. And the teaching portfolio is for your own reflection. And you don't give somebody your whole teaching portfolio. Nobody is going to make sense of all of that. But for yourself, it helps you to keep track of what you're doing and your innovations and the changes that you're making and the impact that it has on your teaching, the impact that you see on your students. And you can pull pieces from that portfolio to share with job applications and things like that. But the portfolio process is for yourself. So that has helped me understand and get my head around a little bit about this idea of a portfolio for students. It's creating a space and a way of thinking about the experiences that they're having that gives them a wealth of opportunity. I've often talked to students at the end of their career and they're like, I just don't have any skills. And I look back on the classes that they've taken. I'm like, you have tons of skills. Look at all the things that you've learned. But this helps students to practice and think about how they talk about those skills and how they talk about the things that they've learned. So when they get to the end, they're prepared, they're ready. They sort of they've taken stock.
So I'm just going to respond to Henry's question, and I see Sarah is also responding to it. But we are, and especially Missy, but Missy and Meg have been in contact with our advising team at the exploration level and in many of the colleges for many weeks now, trying to share everything we do know as we know it, so that advisors are aware of and ready to answer questions for students. And of course, they're not, because we're building this plane as we fly it, but we are as prepared as we can be, and we're sharing the information as much as possible. So, and providing talking points, orientation is about to start, and there will be some explanation to students about what they're going to be getting into there as well.
I just put up a link that is to our teaching and learning resource center. And my group has just published a new topic on high impact practices, enhancing the student experience. So if you're interested in learning more about ePortfolio and other high impact practices, I recommend this as an overview. And if you haven't been to the Teaching and Learning Resource Center, it's a growing and valuable resource for all things teaching and learning.
And I do also want to say again, this new Gen Ed provides us with the opportunity to give every Ohio State student a shared intellectual experience in the launch seminar, in the citizenship theme, in the reflection seminar, in a way that they've not had in generations. With the previous Gen Ed, students picked and chose. They picked their own puzzle. Here, we're giving them the edge pieces, and I think that's going to be a very useful way to do that. So thank you all very much for coming and sharing with this. I think we'll stick around for a few minutes if people have additional questions, and we'll go from there.
Yes, and thank you all for being here today. Really thank you for your interest and engagement. I also just want to put a pitch in. I threw a link into the comments here in the chat that we are seeking instructors for launch and reflection. I'm hoping that we can build a really diverse team of people who are interested in working with students, supporting students' learning, and care about their experience here at the university. So if you would like to be part of that team, or if you know someone who would, please fill out that interest survey, and I'll be happy to connect with you about more of that. So, really, this is a change that's going to connect our whole campus and all the campuses in very new ways. It's part of a slow, gradual culture shift in the way we think about the GE and the way the GE fits with students' experiences and the way instructors fit together too. So big change is happening. It's going to come along slowly, but it's surely coming. And so thank you all for being here to hear about it. And I personally am very grateful to be part of this process. And grateful to work with Teresa and Alan, who are such experts on this topic. So thank you both for your partnership, and thanks all of you for being here today.
We're thrilled to have you, Missy. And thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful to have a chance to talk with all of you.